Hello everybody, welcome to WhatCulture Gaming. I'm Scott, joined by Josh.
Hello.
With some good news in regards to Rockstar and GTA 6.
Well, It seems that we've once again got a report that GTA 6 is indeed in development, because as the tax year is coming to a close, and I know that sounds boring, but it is really important.
The only time tax returns are cool,
yes.
when they confirm things are in production.
Yes. Screen Rant picked up a report by Tax Watch UK, who was essentially talking about the tax relief that Rockstar Games had filed for, and it is, quote, by far the largest for video games tax relief granted by HMRC, which is the UK's tax firm.
Right.
But apparently it's so big because it confirms that the production of the next edition of GTA is rumoured to be scheduled soon. Apparently they've essentially asked for all this tax relief because the next Grand Theft Auto is in production, and that was like a throwaway line by the Tax Watch, the report that they've done. So that's another confirmation that it is in development. We've had a few across the years, but that's not the most important thing for me this morning. It's that how essentially Take-Two and Rockstar are going to tackle GTA and Red Dead and all the other franchises they're working on going forward, because there was another thing of the weekend by, and I want to get this right because I've never watched this YouTuber, it's a popular GTA YouTuber, I've been informed, called Swegtier.
Where are we looking at?
Swegita.
I'm going to go with Swegta.
Swegta, that's much better.
Swegta?
I'm so sorry. I'm sure it's really good.
If it's Swegita and he's a Dragon Ball fan.
That's what I thought. That's what I was going on. They released a tweet saying that Take-Two is reportedly pressuring Rockstar Games to return to their more frequent game release schedule. Although this probably would be bad for bigger franchises like GTA and Red Dead, it could incentivize them to continue focusing on smaller titles like Bully and Manhunt.
Well, I'm not going to lie, I'm 100% behind that.
Right.
Not in regards to, I don't want them to start crunching out GTAs every couple of years. I remember when Strauss Zelnick, who works for Take-Two, was asked about that, and he said a lot of the value of GTA is in staggering it across so many years. They don't want to overdo it. They don't want to make people get sick of it. And that was coming around the same time that Ubisoft were cranking out Assassin's Creed 2 in a year, and etc. But I miss the Rockstar of old. I miss the 2000s Rockstar when you had Manhunt the Warriors, Bully, alongside all the different GTAs. Like, I would love them to flex more creative muscles and bring Agent back or something.
Well, this is it, Scott. You make a good point there by mentioning Strauss Zelnick, because he's the CEO of Take-Two. He did mention at E3 last year when he was talking to Games Industry Biz that he said, quote, we believe in resting titles as a great thing. I was a real outlier 12 years ago when we said we don't think it makes sense to annualize non-sports titles, and now most people would agree. Then he went on to say, but I think 8 years is probably too long to develop a game, which is kind of fair enough, and it does back up this claim that they are pressuring Rockstar to make more games, because like you said, if you look back at what Rockstar both developed and published during the 2000s, they had multiple games a year, and that's just sort of gone away over the past 7 years.
Well, if you contrast it to the 2010s, we had Max Payne 3, they published L.A. Noire, they sort of helped get it over the finish line, and then are you going to read out what they've done? I have a complete
list of what they've done this year.
Bring it on.
In 2010 they did Red Dead Redemption 1, then in 2011 they did L.A. Noire, then in 2012 they did Max Payne 3. Quite a good run, one game a year.
Very good.
Then GTA 5 dropped.
And that was it.
And then there was a big break until 2019 when they dropped Red Dead Redemption 2. And that's presumably because GTA Online was so lucrative that they didn't need to spend money on these other games. But I wonder how that works from a sort of top-down publisher level, because they're making a lot of money off one title, but presumably they're missing out because they only have one title to make money off.
Assumedly over time you can start to shrink that amount of personnel that are working on GTA over time, assumedly goes drastically smaller, because you're not trying to get the campaign over the finish line, you're not trying to get this entire game finished, and it's only really supporting the online aspect, which in itself is sort of gets new content at least every half a year or so. So assumedly they have a whole bunch of people they can reallocate to something else. Now maybe they roll over onto, I know Red Dead 2 required every single one of their studios to get finished, but maybe all those people then roll straight over to the next full GTA. It just seems like a waste of personnel and talent considering how much they used to do.
Yeah, I think that's a very salient point, because obviously Rockstar Games as a whole have so many studios that were previously working on their own unique franchises. You had people on Grand Theft Auto, you had people on Red Dead, you had people on Max Payne, you had people on Manhunt, Bully, all these other titles.
So good.
But like you said, after GTA 5, all of them were on Red Dead Redemption 2, and that was a complete and utter holistic Rockstar Games production. So I wonder whether they wanted that to be the precedent going forward, and they wanted these massive games that take millions of dollars to produce, but that from a publisher standpoint, that's not really financially viable.
No, Zelnick did once say that they took them by surprise, that obviously they knew it was going to be a big deal, but they didn't see GTA Online as being this massive platform for content, and that kind of this is going away from his quote, but that lines up with the way the industry's gone this generation, or at least the way that a lot of the top tier publishers thought it was going to go by just going, here's this platform for content, we'll plug stuff in. Everyone then does that, and we all go, well, we can't have dailies for everything every day.
Yes.
So there is like GTA Online has managed to maintain a hardcore fan base, but for Rockstar themselves, I honestly don't know what they're doing with that many studios, and they're only putting out 5 games in a decade.
It's I'm conflicted on this. I'm not going to lie to you, because on the one hand, I actually don't mind that we have to wait a long time for a new Rockstar title, because I always feel like they're pristinely polished in comparison to any other open world game. And to me, it's sort of like waiting 7 years for a new David Fincher movie or something. I see these studios as I see directors in like films and stuff.
True.
Like I don't see them as like big production companies. And I think it's sort of, I'm not missing much by having to wait, even though I'm a fan and obviously I love their games. There's so many other games I could be playing at the same time. And they are so big that for me, GTA 5, for instance, that's sustained at least five years into its lifestyle cycle. I was completely, involved in that community then, and I was kept on playing it. I'm a bit out of it now, but I feel like those games are games that you can play for a long, long time, and they would perhaps lose something by more frequent release dates. But at the same time, I don't want Rockstar or any real big publisher like Take-Two to become another Activision, where you have essentially 3 main franchises, 3 main games, and then you just milk them for all they're worth. That doesn't facilitate creativity or imagination or anything like that. It's just, these need to be the biggest successes ever, and if they're not, you're getting absolutely bumped.
It's strange, because one of the only other, because you think of the top tier game studios in the business right now, you've got like CD Projekt Red, Rockstar, and I would say Naughty Dog are sort of like some of the top 3. And Naughty Dog managed to turn things around way faster than Rockstar do.
Yeah.
Even if they are reusing some game engines like Uncharted 4 to Uncharted Lost Legacy, and obviously they're about to do Last of Us 2. Now they're doing, or they have done way less games in the 2010s than they did beforehand. Just a reality of games getting more detailed and things like that. But I just think that for Rockstar, like I said, 5 games in a decade compared to, and plus like when they were turning things out on a faster rate, it's not like they had any misses. Like across the 2000s, like Bully, Manhunt, The Warriors, they were all phenomenal. They all reuse a lot of the same game engine, but they hit so many times. Like it's not like they worked themselves into the ground like Ubisoft. Like for me, it's just like, go back to doing that. Like get more things out there.
I think I would agree as well in that front, because when it comes to sort of these big releases like GTA and Red Dead, you look at the main franchises, and we every time we do a news on Rockstar, we always assess how long it takes to create a Rockstar game and how they can fit anything else in there. So you presume if a game's going to take 6, 7, or 8 years to make, they're going to focus on the ones that are guaranteed to make money, which is where the likes of Bully, for as popular as it is, it's not another GTA, so you can imagine them having to put that on the back burner. But then it becomes a question of, well, when do they get around to doing it? Because it's sort of like a chicken and egg thing. Whereas I do think they would benefit from putting those other studios that they have on other titles. But I don't know what the sort of reality of game dev is over there, because when they were doing that, games were getting delayed all the time. Like Max Payne 3 was a disappointment for the company because it kept getting delayed so much, and they brought that Rockstar perfection to it.
The marketing was terrible for that, but the game was phenomenal.
True. Yeah, that's it. The game was phenomenal. It was so pristinely polished again, but because it wasn't, GTA or Red Dead, it didn't hit those same sales numbers. It didn't justify the amount of time and resources pumped into it.
It's never going to land as much as the next GTA, but I think it is just as much of a poll saying this is the next IP from Rockstar. I mean, that's just a natural way that, we, like, for the longest time we were waiting on the next thing from Sucker Punch, and then it was Ghost of Tsushima. Like, if you see the Rockstar logo pop up at E3 or any sort of, Game Awards or whatever, and it's something completely new, maybe they do end up resurrecting Agent. I know they eventually discontinued the IP, but something completely different. You pop up the Rockstar logo at the end of that trailer, and all of a sudden the world is like, like it's this new thing. I remember when that was every couple of years, and it was like, what are they working on now? And as much as like Dan and Sam Houser and Leslie Benzies, and they've kind of like, that initial dream team is sort of fractured a bit. I think both the houses are still very much involved. And like, you can go delve into how much impact Leslie had before he left and things like that. Maybe that's why they've slowed down as well. But I just want more ideas from that team. They were on such a hot streak, and I think they've kind of calmed down a bit.
It is sort of, because on the one hand, there is like that hot streak, and you would get games more often, but at the same time, like, leaving the gaps, does that not make the Rockstar brand even more like mysterious and give it extra significance, so that it's been a few years that you do see the Rockstar logo,
it's
then you get even more excited.
But I don't know, for me, as someone who loves their work and loves everything that they've done, from Smuggler's Run all the way through to Red Dead 2, like, I look at everything that they're capable of, and I think that I want more from that talent, that like clearly talented pool of individuals. And looking at, me and Jules just did some news that you'll be able to check out as well on how Ubisoft are are apparently diversifying their output going forward, bringing back the Splinter Cell.
I know, I'm excited for this.
Maybe that.
Yes.
But also, even EA are going to DICE and appointing Respawn's Jason West to be like, look, change the studio, don't call it DICE East or whatever it was anymore, DICE LA I think it was. Give it a new name and make sure you're doing new ideas. I would hope that Rockstar, next generation, don't flip and become, the one game studio.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird how we're seeing these restructuring from like an internal perspective from all of these different studios. Like you mentioned Naughty Dog, who obviously are still releasing games frequently, but even they're less frequent than what they used to be. We're getting a restructuring in Ubisoft. We've got all of these great Rockstar studios, and we do know that people in the industry, whether it's the Sony bosses or Strauss Zelnick, even he's talking about, that you need to have fewer but bigger releases. That's what they're on about. And that is like great, but only if you can continue to keep having different studios release things so you get like a steady, you can't just go 8 years, you have to have like multiple people at least publishing games. And I think that's what Bethesda does quite well, for as much as, they've completely jumped down the toilet over the past few years.
Just fall on the floor for a little bit. So,
when we're waiting for new Bethesda, like, is it Softworks, the people who actually make the games? When we're waiting for those games, Bethesda as a company is still publishing things like Doom or,
they're still out there,
and Prey. They still have the name out there. And what the strangest thing for me is that Rockstar aren't even doing that. They're not really publishing games anymore. They're only publishing what they do internally.
They did start, they put out there that PC launcher thing, and it seems like they're trying to get into more sort of Valve territory where they make the transition from game dev to being publishing house, kind of what Devolver have done. And like I'd be interested to see what sort of games they then greenlight. It's been because I love the way that Devolver have gone like, okay, we give this the blessing, we allow this to come to fruition. I think someone like Rockstar, they'd be a good fit. But for me, you'd always be missing out on that. Like, I want to know what the houses want to do. I want to know what that creative team want to come up with. What's next from the people that gave us Manhunt and Bully and the Warriors? The Warriors, like out of nowhere, randomly 2005 or 6 it was, like, oh yeah, we're just going to do a sequel to this movie from like 1979.
Yeah, it's going to be really
phenomenal.
Good as well.
Yeah, and it was brilliant. And like, they designed a really cool melee system that they never used again. And it was great. And so for me, I'm always going to want that. But I think it is interesting at the turn of the generation where they think they are.
Not to keep yabbing on, but that's also a very good point, Scott, because in the run-up to, say, GTA 5 and even Red Dead Redemption 2, you had all of these other games like Max Payne that were sort of, focusing on one style of gameplay or one mechanic. Like Max Payne 3 obviously had that really weighty, physics-based shooting mechanics where you were holding weapons, you were moving around. And all of those elements trickled into those big releases like GTA and like Red Dead Redemption, and it made them better games. I don't know how you have those big marquee releases without the other titles that inform it, where you learn and act as a playground for innovative mechanics.
Well, when they were developing the Rage engine, the Rockstar Advanced Game Engine, they literally put out the table tennis game to show that what it could do. Just as like, we spent this long developing it, we might as well cash in and get something out of it, so we released some table tennis, and then it ended up factoring back into GTA 4. So there's a way to do the side stuff alongside the big ones. I just want to see more from Rockstar, basically, which is kind of my overall thing.
You've convinced me here.
Good! But yes, let us know what you think down in the comments below. Are you a fan of old school Rockstar, or would you rather they sort of waited and released their big games every sort of few years, maybe even a decade in between them? For now, though, I've been Scott from WhatCulture.com.
I've been Josh from WhatCulture.com.
I'll catch you next time. Bye. I got nothing.